The cartographer and the shifting forest. Kyle was a young cartographer. His job was to draw precise and flawless maps of cities and roads. He hated making mistakes, and if he drew even the slightest crooked line, he would crumple up the entire map and throw it away. For this reason, he only drew maps of places he knew perfectly. One day, the city's governor summoned Kyle and said, "We need a map of the gray forest. No one has ever been able to map it because its paths and trees shift slightly every day." This was the worst possible job for Kyle. How could he draw a perfect map of a place that was constantly changing? But he had to accept. Kyle tried for weeks. He went into the forest every day, carefully noting the paths, but when he returned the next day, he would find that the path had changed slightly. He drew dozens of maps, and each time he crumpled them up in anger and threw them in the trash. He concluded that the task was impossible and became completely discouraged. One evening, as he was sitting in his shop looking at his latest crumpled map, a little girl walked in. The girl picked one of the crumpled maps from the trash can, smoothed it out, and curiously looked at its jumbled, unfinished lines. Kyle said irritably, "That's useless. It's a wrong map." The little girl replied, "It's not wrong. This part you drew looks exactly like the path that goes to the river. But you didn't draw the big fallen tree that's there." Then she picked up a pencil from the table and, with a crooked, childish line, added the shape of a fallen tree to the map. "This is better," she said. Kyle was stunned. All this time, he had been trying to draw a complete and final map, a finished product. But the little girl saw the map not as a final product, but as a tool, something that could be improved. Suddenly, an idea came to him. The solution wasn't to draw a perfect map. It was to draw a map that could be corrected. The next day, Kyle did something completely new. He drew a map of the forest, but mounted it on a large wooden board. Next to the board, he placed a box full of pins and small pieces of paper. He placed the map at the entrance of the forest and wrote above it, "This map is always changing. If a path has moved or you see something new, please mark its location on the map with a pin and a note." Within a few days, the map was covered in little notes from people. "This path doesn't exist anymore. I found a water spring here. This area is muddy. Go from the right side." Kyle's map turned into a living, collaborative map. It was the most accurate map possible of the gray forest, not because it was flawless, but precisely because it was full of corrections and changes. We can learn several key and important lessons from this story. Perfectionism isn't always good and can hinder progress. Kyle was so obsessed with the idea of drawing a perfect map that he couldn't finish anything. He thought anything that wasn't perfect was a failure. But the main lesson is that sometimes a done and useful job is much better than a perfect job that never gets completed. Mistakes are not failures. They are part of the path to a solution. The maps that Kyle crumpled and threw away were actually the first steps to solving the puzzle. He saw them as mistakes, but those same maps helped him and others arrive at the final answer. This teaches us not to be afraid of making mistakes, as every error provides us with useful information. To solve some problems, you must ask for help from others. Kyle couldn't handle the shifting forest alone. His solution was found when, instead of working in isolation, he utilized the knowledge and experience of everyone who used the forest. This shows that the power of a group is always greater than that of an individual. Sometimes, you need to create a system instead of a final product. The best solution for a changing problem, like the forest, was not a fixed answer. Instead of one map, Kyle created a system for updating the map. This is an important lesson that for dynamic and evolving problems, we should look for flexible and living solutions.